As the soldiers returned to their base on their bus, they couldn't help but be curious about Yun-so and Minjun's relationship, so they started to ask him if there was something between them. He thinks about it for a while, before telling the boys that she simply provoked him with her staring, so he showed her who's the boss by destroying her in the tests. His reply left the boys stunned as their faces froze with the same reactions from earlier. They soon snapped out of it, and yelled at Minjun hard, to the point that their bus started to shake from their insults. Back on the bus, Minjun still held a calm expression on his face while being surrounded by everyone. The boys began to scold him over what he did to Yun-so since they regarded her as the hottest girl in the 104th Division and the girl of their dreams. So he casually reveals to everyone that Yun-so wasn't the girl of his dreams. Much to the shock of everyone, till one of them asks him who his dream girl was. With a straight and serious face, Minjun instantly replies with Lumi. The name of the girl, Lumi, left the boys confused as they wondered who that was. Minjun knew her as the video game Dungeon Powerfighter's greatest beauty, making him wonder how they all didn't know about her. After he explained who she was, the boys grew silent and depressed after hearing his reply. Back at base, boxes were filled with the bones of dead chickens since everyone was happily eating in the bunk. The senior soldiers talked amongst themselves that this was the first time that they had seen the lieutenant like this, as he was the one who had brought them food in the first place, making them think that he was in an extremely good mood today. One of the other soldiers points out that it was all due to Minjun, so he happily thanks our boy. The orange-haired senior couldn't believe that Minjun had already gotten his 3 stripes, thinking that he would be a sergeant soon as well. But our boy doesn't reply right away as he stuffs his mouth full of food, but just then, the door to the bunk opens. Sengho enters. Bringing along with him a crate filled with drinks, he orders the boys here to gather at the lounge immediately. They look at him with puzzled faces, wondering why. He tells them that he had just finished the report to the administration about their squad dinner, in regards to one of their squad members' perfect scores in the advancement exam. The seniors are quick, however, to spot what it was that he was carrying. It was beer. Sengho then informs them that this was a present from the company commander to Minjun, so it had nothing to do with them. The seniors could only call him an asshole once he left along with the boys. The orange-haired senior was especially angry as he figured out that Sengho already knew what Minjun was capable of, hence why he placed him into his squad right after he had been transferred. Late at night in the base, Minjun is seen walking by himself in an empty alleyway, looking left and right. He soon comes to a stop, before calling out for something to emerge. As he focuses his dark energy onto a spot in front of him, a figure starts to emerge from it. It turns out to be the little fellow from before. Looking at it, Minjun asks how it was. Looking at it chasing after a fly, Minjun thought that because of its unexpected appearance, he was extremely flustered when he first summoned him, but now he came up with a good idea nevertheless. With a creepy and sinister smile on his face, Minjun knew that what he needed right now isn't an assassin, so he'll task him with the perfect role. This little cute fellow will now be collecting information instead of Minjun. As he continues to look around, Minjun tells the dark fellow to focus, ordering him to follow anyone who seems to be high-ranking. He added that if there was information about some unusual occurrence, he needed to report it to Minjun immediately. Especially if the situation seems like it involves demonic energy. To Minjun's surprise, the little fellow places his hand out to him. Seeing this, Minjun understood what he wanted right away, telling the little guy all right while summoning demonic energy in his other hand. So Minjun hands over the demonic energy to him, giving the little guy a sudden burst of power as it runs around happily filled with demonic energy. Seeing the sudden state that he was in, Minjun warns the little guy to be careful so he wouldn't get caught. His face was slightly annoyed after seeing the bastard run off with excitement, which made him incredibly anxious. Knowing that if anyone were to see him right now, the squad would probably go into a state of emergency. "What are you doing out here?" said Sengho, who appears out of the blue right behind Minjun, causing him to jump. Pausing for a moment, Minjun turns around to tell him that he hadn't had beer for so long, so he came out to get some fresh air. Sengho seems to believe the lie as he asks Minjun if his alcohol tolerance was low. Minjun nervously replied that I wasn't exactly, but deep down, he knew that dark mages don't normally get drunk. Whether it was poison or booze, as soon as it enters the body, it automatically detoxifies itself. Sengho then congratulates him for his promotion, but warns him not to get too comfortable so as to keep up with the good work. Minjun smiles and tells him that he would do exactly that. As Sengho turns to leave first, he tells Min Jun to not come back too late, otherwise the boys would finish all of his beer. Seeing that Sengho was finally leaving, Min Jun lets out a deep sigh of relief. He was glad that Sengho didn't see anything but knew that he needed to be more careful going forward. But looking at that muscular back, Min Jun figured that the more he gets to know him, the more Sengho seems like a by-the-book soldier, which was a personality type that Min Jun particularly didn't mind as he thought about it before heading back inside. The next day, we turn to see two commanders discussing something in a room. The commander holding the chart told the other that he was planning on killing all the losers, since only one of them managed to pass, but luckily a certain bastard got the perfect score. The other commander reports to him that Corporal Min Jun had set a new record of 4 seconds during the ability to handle monsters test. Hearing about this, the commander couldn't help but remember Sung Bom from the training center who kept on praising Min Jun to him. But he agrees with Sung Bom, knowing that Min Jun had far surpassed their expectations. Placing down the chart, he reminds the other commander that Min Jun was also the one who defeated the middle bats at the oil reserve. The commander agrees, revealing that it was reported that Min Jun was the first to leap into action. They couldn't help themselves from marveling Min Jun, since he had become a corporal in less than months since his transfer. Moreover, the way he advanced was anything but ordinary, giving the commander vibes that he was someone who was going to exceed all of their expectations. He continues to tell the other commander that it was only a matter of time before the entire Hunter Corps knows about Min Jun, and when that happens, a certain group will start to observe him. The commander was startled to hear this, thinking that the certain group he was referring to was the Hunter Special Forces Brigade, making him wonder if the commander truly trusts that Min Jun was that capable. The commander reveals that he senses that Min Jun was the one. Until now, he had seen countless hunters, and amongst them, there have been monsters referred to as the Hunter Corps legends. And so, he believes that a new monster will be born in the Hunter Corps. The scene then changes to the middle of the desert, where a lone soldier stood against a group of lizardmen and a group of stone golems. It turns out there were more types of monsters surrounding the fellow as he held onto a familiar-looking weapon. As the monsters started to growl and salivate at the thought of eating the soldier, it was revealed that it was Min Jun. As he taps his helmet with the metal bat from The Walking Dead, he asks the groups of monsters a question with a smile on his face. "Have you finished gathering?" As the boys chug their hangover cures in a bottle, Min Jun returns to the bunk, looking fresh as hell. Much to the surprise of everyone else as one of them calls out to him, wondering if he was okay after their drinking session last night, he replies back that he was completely fine, much to the shock of the senior, as he knew that Min Jun drank the most. But then something catches his attention. He turns around to see that another member had returned to the bunk as well, so he asks if he was feeling alright. It turns out to be Sengho, whose shirt is tightly wrapped around his bombastic body. He replies back to Min Jun that he was perfectly fine after sweating out. Looking close at his body, Min Jun could only think of him as a true soldier. So then Sengho asks him if he had tried out the gym. Min Jun replies that he hasn't had the chance to use it yet. As he turns to leave, he tells him to use it as much as he would like since he was a corporal now after all. But then he stops to tell Min Jun one more thing, that the virtual reality device in their squad was pretty decent. The words virtual reality rang the alarms inside Min Jun's head, with a sinister smile on his face again. Min Jun thought that it was time for him to try the famous Hunter Corps virtual reality room he had heard so much about. So he headed to gym number 2, standing in front of its door, he couldn't help himself from smiling. As he entered the gym, he was impressed by how realistic it looked. Fiddling with the machine, he soon stumbles onto a screen asking him to select a monster from 4 types: hound, monster rat, goblin and orc. Min Jun decided on the orc as his first victim, and then the screen asks him to select the number of monsters. He smirks at this question and continues to spam the plus button. As he wanted the maximum number of monsters possible, the system soon informs him that he had reached the maximum number. The maximum number of monsters was 30. He felt disappointed by the number as he wanted to feel like he was in a game from a Warriors series. As he clicked the next button, the system told him to select his weapon. Seeing this window made Min Jun very happy as he calls it insane. After completing his selections, he moves on to wear the helmet of the virtual reality machine. The moment he does, the system informs him that it was initiating the battle. The room he was in started to change pixel by pixel into the desert that we saw earlier on. Looking around all excitedly, the system started a countdown to 0, causing the monsters to move closer to where Min Jun was standing. he sees them coming, and happily smiles, shouting out loud that this was really well made as he swings his metal bat filled with nails. Just a single swing was enough to send the first orc flying through the air. He was impressed by how amazing the impact felt like. And so, he continued to abuse and beat the orcs that came to him, exclaiming out loud that it felt so real. Soon enough the final orcs finally escaped his wrath by entering death, as their bodies turned into pixels just like how we will as we are in a simulation. The system informs Min Jun that the battle was completed. But our boy wasn't impressed by it at all. He felt that it was lacking since he only had 30 punching bags to mess with this time. Then an idea came across his mind, making him smirk. It turns out that Min Jun had entered a second round, but this time, he selected groups of 30 for every kind of monster the system had to offer. Ask and you shall receive. The groups of 30 monsters made their appearance, seeing them make Min Jun tap his helmet while muttering the word. Yes, his face was filled with excitement as he knew that this was now a real monster hunt. Seeing all of them gathering around him as if he was the only girl in an engineering class that needed help with an assignment, he continued to smirk, asking them if they had finished gathering. Once again, the system announces the countdown to the start of the battle, making every monster around Min Jun rush towards him as a horde. Seeing them coming, he runs towards them as well. Without fear he takes a swing of his bat, calling them his sweet cuties before beating the crap out of each and every one of them. None of the monsters could lay a hand on our boy as he casually dodges their attack before once again smacking them with his metal bat. The screams of pain and horror of the monsters could be heard, followed by their blood spilling on the sands of the desert. With a final blow that knocks out the last of the monsters, Min Jun was now surrounded by the beaten and dead bodies of every monster he had summoned. Hence, the system announces that the battle has been completed. With a tap on his helmet, Min Jun has terminated the simulation and returned to reality. As he removed the virtual reality helmet, he couldn't believe how insane it was. He happily calls it the next best thing after Dungeon Power Fighter, the video game he missed while being in the other world. But then a notification window appears to inform him that the skill Basic Blunt Weapon Handling has been created. Much to his surprise, he could see that it was a skill that slightly increases his proficiency with blunt weapons and was ranked E. Seeing this, he figures that it wasn't too bad. Since he didn't anticipate weapon skills, this new skill was sweet. As he left the virtual reality room, he realized that he didn't need to go to the dungeons in order to develop skills. Which made him laugh as it meant that he could come here again to play with other weapons when he has free time. But then something catches his attention. It turns out to be our best buddy Dong Jin, who appears to be stunned as Min Jun calls out to him. His face was filled with a dreadful look as he pointed to something. Seeing his finger trembling, Min Jun couldn't help but turn to see what he was pointing at. The results of Min Jun's battle simulation had been posted, showing that he had defeated 4 groups of monsters at once. Seeing it being posted shocks our boy as he and Dong Jin had an awkward silence between them. So Dong Jin breaks the silence first by asking Min Jun if he had really defeated all of them. But he couldn't reply with a straight answer, before an idea pops up in his head. With a serious face, he calls out to Private First Class Dong Jin, asking him to have a little chat. Which made him wonder why. His reply causes Min Jun to laugh at first before smiling with a devious grin. He quietly mentions that they were going to train. As he was being pushed into the gym, Dong Jin felt afraid by what Min Jun said quietly as he couldn't quite get it, but Min Jun assured him that everything was going to be alright. And so the door to the gym is locked the moment the 2 boys enter it. As soon as it does, someone else appears. Looking at the board that contained Min Jun's record of using the virtual reality room, it turns out to be Guang Shik, who like Dong Jin, remained stunned upon seeing the crazy results that Min Jun had left behind. As he made his way back to the bunk, Guang Shik could see that there were only a few of them playing around in the corner of the bunk. As he made his way inside, the private stood at attention, allowing Guang Shik to ask him where everyone else was, especially Min Jun. The private reported to him that everyone had gone to the storage to grab the snow removal equipment, while Corporal Min Jun told him that he would be at the gym until their schedule starts. But the private panicked as he had subconsciously called Min Jun a corporal in front of Guang Shik. As he braces himself for a scolding, Guang Shik just stares at him silently before leaving and telling him to inform Min Jun that the platoon commander was looking for him. The private immediately went to follow his orders, thinking that he had to get out of the room before Guang Shik changed his mind. As he walked over to where the rest were resting, he asked them about what they were doing. They turned around, asking Guang Shik if he wanted to join in with what they were doing. They reveal to him that they were betting on how quickly Min Jun will become a sergeant. Guang Shik could see that they were betting an entire month's worth of salary, making it a big deal. But he questions the two of them on why they were always making bets, but they ignore his question. Instead, the soldier laughs while telling him that Han Young had placed a bet for 6 months, which made him laugh even louder as he calls it a crazy shit to happen, annoying Han Young, who was literally right behind him. He started to scold him and tried to justify his bet by calling Min Jun a bastard that was far from ordinary. He's right, you know. As the two of them continued to argue it out with one another, Guang Shik began to write down his own bet, before placing back the pen and paper onto the mat that they were sitting on. Han Young looked at it and was instantly shocked by what he saw. He calls out to Guang Shik, asking him if he was being for real, as there was no way he could take the bet back. He reminds Guang Shik that he was betting an entire month of salary on this, but he simply waves them goodbye. Like a true gigachad, his action impressed Han Young as he smiled while calling him a bastard that was more insane than he was. It turns out that Guang Shik had placed a bet that Min Jun would be promoted to the rank of sergeant in 1 month. The shortest duration amongst all the other bets. We now turn to the gym of the base, filled with red, black and gray colored equipment. A warning sign was placed onto the wall, declaring that the usage of the redstone equipment is prohibited without a spotter. It turns out that our boy doesn't give a damn about the rules, as he easily squats a pair of the redstone weights without any assistance. As he came back up, his back was flexed hard to the point that you could see every inch of his back muscle. I'm not gay, but this view is making me thirsty. Hee haw. The thirsty scenes don't end as he continues to flex his arms while doing bicep curls with a redstone dumbbell this time. He finally drops them onto the ground, feeling his muscle. He couldn't feel that his stats had gone up even though he had been lifting weights for days. He recalls Isgard, knowing that at least that disgusting place was good for something. What he really liked was the skills that could get better with the increase of the stats, making him wonder why Earth doesn't have anything like the returned hero's strength. But then something happens. A notification window appears to tell him that his skills power has been created. It increased his strength by 5. Seeing this made him realize that his training had worked. He didn't care that it was just a basic skill, as he could rank it up later on. Just as he was looking at his window, the private slowly opened the door. He saluted and reported to Min Jun that the platoon commander was looking for him. Our boy turns around with overflowing joy since he had just gotten a new skill, telling the private thanks. His reaction and face just causes the poor private to be confused. As Min Jun left him behind in the gym, the private could only wonder why everyone was weird today. We now turn to the administrative office, where Min Jun salutes the platoon commander, who was happy to see him here. He tells Minju that their meeting wasn't anything special, and leads him into the counseling room to have a chat. As they walk to the room, he asks how his corporal life was going. Min Jun replies that he was having a great time before congratulating the sir on his promotion. Hearing that made him smile. He tells Min Jun that he only got it because he had resolved the incident with the middle bats, which he was really grateful for. And then he hands over a file to him, telling Min Jun that this was the reason why he was called today. He happily informs him that the battalion commander had given him this for dealing with that incident, and for achieving a perfect score on his advancement exam. As he opened the file, Min Jun thanked the commander for it, and could see that it was an award of excellence. While looking at it, the commander was sorry for not being able to present it in an official ceremony, as they didn't have a lot of them in the Hunter Corps. So he wanted Min Jun to include it as part of his experience. Hearing that brought sparkles to his eyes, as he thought that experience meant that they could grant him another exception. The commander hears this and tells him probably. However, he reveals that getting these kinds of awards weren't easy to obtain, since there aren't many hunters who have been awarded as early as him, but there were even fewer of those who've received multiple of those. Hearing this bit of information, Min Jun immediately leaps to ask him if he would get another advancement if he gets another 10 awards. His reply killed the commander, as he thinks that Min Jun thought of the awards like a coupon you get at a fried chicken restaurant. A few days later, the boys were gathered in front of a portal, standing by with their specialty weapons. A commander informs them that their platoon has been assigned to clear the dungeon, telling the boys that if they do as they were trained, then they would be able to complete their mission without injuries. As the commander tells them about the dungeon that they would be clearing today, another one appears beside him, carrying a green box. Upon opening it, everyone was depressed to see what was inside of it. The commander shows the item off, telling them that the dungeon was the monster rat nest, aka the sewers. Soon enough, they were inside the dungeon, covering their faces with masks. Min Jun was the last one in the formation while Han Young was in front of him with Dong Jin being in the front of the three. Sengho and Chul Min were also in front of them, leaving the last to be Chul Ho and Minji who are leading the charge. The monster rat nest dungeon, that's referred to as the sewers in the Hunter Corps, isn't categorized as highly dangerous. However, it usually spawns more than 200 monster rats. As Sengho signals to the commander to stop, they exchange glances with one another. As the narrow environment of the tunnels restrict the usage of firearms, which makes this a fairly complicated dungeon. Seeing where they were, they noticed that this space only has one entrance, making it the best place for them to lure the rats to. Minji agrees and tells him to prepare the bait. As they prepared the bait, the disgusting smell of the dungeon was why they had to be equipped with a special gas mask from the Hunter Corps, which makes it an environment where hunters cannot perform to their full potential. Seong-gi then brings over a green box which Han Young notices right away. He backs away immediately, calling them disgusting bastards while bumping into Min Jun. The green box he was giving to Minji let out an unpleasant vibe to it. The item that came out of it was a monster rat bait called a banana or what's left of it. Stinky. Even Min Jun felt disgusted by it as Han Young wonders how the rats were able to eat something shitty like that. So Min Jin orders the boys to spread the bait across the entire place as much as possible, before noticing a cracking sound. He looked down to see what it was. He had stepped onto a piece of bone. As he looked in front to find the source of the bones, he felt that something was off as he saw the ground covered in dead skeleton parts.
Thanks for watching the latest part from the voice of Manhwa. Subscribe for more content and don't forget to comment below what you want to see in the future. Like and share for more.